Hi everyone, welcome to my little corner of the internet. I feel nervous for some reason. I think it's because I have watched a lot of booktube and I've always wanted to start one. And people have asked me to start one, so here I am, starting a booktube channel for all of you. I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in January, and I read, actually I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books this past month, and that seems like a lot, and it is. January usually is my biggest reading month just because I live in Canada and it's super cold right now in the city that I'm in. It's literally like a blizzard out there, so I have spent many nights reading in my bed and on my couch and not seeing anyone, but I'm okay with that because books keep me company. So yeah, I'll just start with the first one. The first one that I read is a well-loved book called Bluets by Maggie Nelson. I have read one Maggie Nelson book before, The Argonauts, and I really enjoyed it. I will say Maggie is a very smart person. Sometimes some of her stuff goes over my head. I will be the first to admit that, but she's a really good writer and has really beautiful prose, super lyrically written, really gorgeous stuff. Also, Maggie Nelson is a fellow queer, so we love supporting other queers. I just realized that I put this book down and didn't even explain what it was about. Bear with me, guys, I'm new to this. So it's basically a collection of essays around the color blue. I actually pulled up, there's nothing on the back of this, it just talks about Maggie Nelson. So I pulled up the little description. It says, a lyrical, philosophical, and often explicit exploration of personal suffering and the limitations of vision and love as reflected through the color blue. With Bluets, Maggie Nelson has entered the pantheon of brilliant lyrical essayists, and I agree. So that's Bluets. Also, I apologize if you hear any background sounds or like hissing or anything. It's my radiator. I live in a really old building, and that's just one of the joys of it, is that my radiator sings. So if you hear them in the background, I apologize and just ignore it. King Kong Theory by Virginie Despentes. Hope I'm saying that right. She is a French writer who likes to and filmmaker who likes to explore the topics of gender and sexuality and other marginalized groups. And this was a really short but good read. Virginie gives me the same vibes as Valerie Solanas. If you ever read Scum Manifesto or know about Scum Manifesto, Valerie Solanas is the woman who had shot Andy Warhol. And she wrote this book about kind of like the utopia of what the world would be like if there were no men at all. And it's a banger. Honestly, read it. But this book is, I'm just gonna read the back. It's powerful, provocative, and personal. King Kong Theory is a candid account of how the author of Moi, oh god, my French is terrible, and the Vernon Subtext trilogy came to Virginie, a name she gave herself after the neighborhood where she was once a sex worker. Drawing from her own life experiences, Despentes obliterates common notions about rape, prostitution, sex, and gender. An autobiography, a call for revolt, a manifesto for new punk feminism. King Kong Theory is Despentes' most beloved and reveled work, and it is here made available again in a brilliant new translation by Frank Wynne. Yeah, it was a really incredible book, really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, I made my partner read this and she also really enjoyed it. Maybe look up some of the trigger warnings. It can be a little funky, but I highly do recommend this book. The next book I read is a well-loved library copy of So Sad Today by Melissa Broder. Melissa Broder wrote the Pisces, which I have to read, and that's on my reading list to read during Pisces season, of course. I'm waiting for it. And she also wrote Milkfed, which is another beloved book on BookTube, Bookstagram. Yeah, so she wrote this book of essays based on like a Twitter account that she started called So Sad Today. She just talks about her struggles with panic attacks, depression, anxiety. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think I read it at a good time this year. I kind of wanted to read something sad because I was feeling a little bit of the seasonal depression blues this month, and this really did it for me. So here's So Sad Today. The next book that I read is The Seas by Samantha Hunt, another well-loved book, and a recommendation from Iggy, who is Literary Iggy here on BookTube, also on Instagram. Yeah, she's recommended this book and I've seen it make the rounds and I really loved it. It has a touch of magical realism in it, and usually that's not my thing, but I really enjoyed it, and I don't know what else to say about this. Hold 1 second. I wrote notes because I kind of sometimes don't know how to talk about books other than be like, yes, good, or poo-poo. It's about a girl. It's about a girl who is from a small town and who thinks that she is a mermaid, and she meets someone and then it just goes from there. Honestly, go into this book blind because I also didn't really know much about this book other than the fact that people really liked it. And I think that's what made it for me. I think if I read into it too hard or like did too much research, I think I would have like not read it because it didn't sound like something that I would necessarily like, but I did, and I'm glad I did. The next book I read is called Ghost Forest by Fung. It's a Canadian book and I bought it from the library. This book made me cry. I didn't expect it to, but it did. I'll just read the little blurb for you here. How do you grieve if your family doesn't talk about feelings? This is the question the unnamed protagonist of Ghost Forest considers after her father dies. One of the many Hong Kong astronaut fathers, he stays behind to work while the rest of the family immigrates to Canada, ahead of the 1997 handover when the British returned sovereignty over Hong Kong to China. As she revisits memories of her father throughout the years, she struggles with unresolved questions and misunderstandings. Turning to her mother and grandmother for answers, she discovers her own life reflected brightly in theirs. Buoyant, heartbreaking, and unexpectedly funny, Ghost Forest is a slim novel that envelops the reader in joy and sorrow. Sorrow, for sure. Fung writes with a poetic and haunting voice, layering detail and abstraction, weaving memory and oral history to paint a moving portrait of a Chinese-Canadian astronaut family. Gorgeous. Didn't expect to like it, but I did. I cried a river reading this book. The next book I read was Girls Against God by Jenny Val, another library copy. Jenny Val wrote Paradise Rot, which is another book that I really want to read and is making its way around BookTube. And oh my god, oh, there's a hair in this book. I really wanted to like this book and I didn't. I really liked the writing. Jenny Val is a really beautiful writer. I liked the topics of like God and like hating God. It was really interesting. But I just didn't gel. I wanted to like it so bad. I honestly, a lot of it went over my head. I got really lost. I think by like the 30th page, I was like, what's going on here? I don't know. But I kept trying to read it and read the whole thing, and it just wasn't for me. But who's to say it's not for you? So maybe read it if you want to. This book, on the other hand, was so gorgeous. It's Among Flowers by Jamaica Kincaid. Oh, Among Flowers, A Walk in the Himalaya by Jamaica Kincaid. Last year I had read, I think 3 or 4, I'm looking at my bookshelf, 3 or 4 Jamaica Kincaid books. I started off with Lucy, and brilliant. I'm obsessed. Every time I go to a used bookstore and see a Kincaid book, it's coming home with me, absolutely. I just enjoy her writing so much. And another thing I like is I found that her books are fairly small, which is good for my brain. I feel like I look at a big book and I'm immediately like, no, I can't do it. I kind of have a big fear of big books. But this just talks about her journey through the Himalayan landscape. She goes with a group of friends, specifically her one good friend who is a gardener and owns a plant nursery, and they go to the Himalayas to collect seeds. And I think she's there for like a month or 2 months or something, like a chunk of time away from her family. And it's just really beautiful writing about the landscape and the environment and plants and flowers. And yeah, I don't know, it was just really beautifully written. Another 10 out of 10 from Kincaid. The next book I read is called Little Fish by Casey Plett. This is a Canadian book that was a book chosen for a book club at my local library. Not library, independent bookstore. And it was really beautiful. Very wintry looking book. So this is a book written about a trans woman in Winnipeg who recently lost her grandmother and finds out somehow, or there's rumors about how her grandfather might have possibly also been trans. It's the dead of winter in Winnipeg, and Wendy Reimer, a 30-year-old trans woman, feels like her life is frozen in place. When her Oma passes away, Wendy receives an unexpected phone call from a distant family friend with a startling secret. Wendy's Opa, grandfather, a devout Mennonite farmer, might have been transgender himself. At first, she dismisses this revelation, but as Wendy's life grows increasingly volatile, she finds herself aching for the lost pieces of her Opa's truth. Can Wendy unravel the mystery of her grandfather's world and reckon with the culture that has both shaped and rejected her? She's determined to try. Really gorgeous book. Honestly, wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't chosen as a book club book. I have never seen this book before, and I'm glad that I partook in reading it because it was really beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So the next book is M Train by the legendary Patti Smith. Patti Smith is also a beloved singer, iconic. She also wrote the book Just Kids, which was really beautiful, and I read in January of last year. This book was read to me because I had listened to it and brought it from the library on audiobook. If you are a fan of coffee, of day drinking, of traveling, of ruminations about art and culture, and getting lost, I think you would enjoy this book. It also comes with pictures, which I love. I love a picture book. Look at this cute little picture. But yeah, it was a fun little read, and you should read it if you're a fan of Patti Smith or any of those things that I just mentioned. The next book I read is called Witches by Brenda.
Editing Colleen here, and her name is actually pronounced Brenda Lozano. I am a fool for messing that up.
Lonzo. It is a beautiful book. I have an advanced copy because my friend sent it to me. The great bookseller Zoe, Blundershelf on Instagram, Gorgie sent me this book, and they said that they read it and thought of me and thought that I would enjoy it, and they were completely right. This was really beautifully written. Again, another book that was not on my radar and I didn't know anything about, and I decided to give it a shot, and I thought it was really beautiful. Paloma is dead, but before she was murdered, before she was even Paloma, she was a traditional healer named Gaspar. Before she was murdered, she taught her cousin Feliciana the secrets of the ceremonies known as Veladas. and about the language in the book that unlocks their secrets. Sent to the report on Paloma's murder, Zoe, meets Feliciana in the mountain village of San Felipe. There, the two women's lives twist around each other in a dance macabre. I need to read out loud more. Feliciana tells Zoe the story of her struggle to become an accepted healer in her community, and Zoe begins to understand the hidden history of her own experience as a woman, finding her way in a hostile environment shaped by and for men. Weaving together two parallel narratives that mirror and reflect each other, this extraordinary novel envisions the healer as storyteller and the writer as healer, and offers a generous and nuanced understanding of a world that can be at turns violent and excludent, cruel and full of hope. Gorgy book. I highly recommend. And the last book, oh god, I feel like this video is going to be really long. Or maybe it's not, because maybe I'm rushing through because I talk fast when I'm a little nervous, which I don't know why I am. This last book that I read, Fleabag, the scriptures, Gorgy is basically the script of season 1 and season 2 of Fleabag by the lovely, incredible, iconic Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah, I read this so fast. I have binge watched the show several times, and just like I just needed more. I just needed more Fleabag. I needed more of that priest daddy in my life. So yeah. Like if you just, it's literally the script. It's really interesting to read, having watched the show and seeing some of the choices that the actors have made based on the script, and just seeing how it's all fleshed out. Really gorgeous. I liked it a lot. Anyways, this concludes my first ever video, January wrap up. I truly am a little bit embarrassed, but that's okay. We're doing new things this year. Obviously, I'm not a bookseller and don't really know how to sell anyone on books. I just really like to talk about them and have like an outlet to, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Comment if you read any of these books. If you are wanting to read any of these books, what are you reading now? How was January? Is it cold where you live? Anyways, talk to me in the comments below. Bye.